Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. India has launched precision missile strikes dubbed Operation Sindoor, targeting 9 terrorist camps in Pakistan. And Pakistan administered and occupied Kashmir following the April 22nd attack in Pahalgam, in which 26 people were killed. Now, India claims the strikes on terror infrastructure linked to groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed, avoiding civilian and military targets, reported 26 deaths, calling it an act of war. That's how Pakistan referred to it. Pakistan has vowed retaliation. There have been significant casualties on both the Indian side and the Pakistani side of the line of control because of intense artillery duels which have broken out between both countries. Now, the escalation is the worst in decades. It is still unclear whether things will cool down or there is further escalation which might take place. Global leaders have urged restraint, while India has defended our actions as a necessary step in the ongoing fight against cross-border terrorism. A quick look at the headlines. India has taken the world into confidence on Op Sindoor. We briefed members of the United Nations Security Council, including China. The External Affairs Minister has spoken to Qatar, their Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, the Foreign Ministers of Germany, France and Japan. The National Security Advisor has spoken to the National Security Advisor of the United States, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia and France.
We reiterate our strong condemnation of the terrorist attack in Pahalgam and the terrible loss of life it caused. We condemn terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Those responsible must be brought to justice.
India stands behind Operation Sindoor. Rahul Gandhi, Akhilesh Yadav, Asaduddin Owaisi, they hail the operation.
वर्किंग कमेटी में हमारा डिस्कशन हुआ, पूरा समर्थन, full support to our forces.
Key airports are shut after Operation Sindoor. Nearly 20 airports shut in border states, close to 200 flights cancelled. There's also Operation Abhyas. India prepares amidst this heightened tension. Civil defence mock drills are being held across several states. All right, well, in case you're just tuning in and aren't entirely aware of what's taken place in the early hours of the morning, shortly after 1 a.m. is when India struck terror targets in Pakistan in the deepest strikes that India has ever carried out on targets in Pakistan since the 1971 war. 9 targets or broad areas were struck. Some of these had multiple points on them. India struck using cruise missiles. India struck using drones and a lot of other technology. This is where it all took place. Now, the areas on the north, some of them are along the line of control on the Pakistani side of the LOC. These are all the specific names of camps over there. So there are more than 20 specific camps over here. And this is in red, the line of control that you see. The line of control stretches down south. It becomes the international boundary. But further south, there is Muridke in Pakistan. And even further south is Bahawalpur. Now, in terms of the strikes themselves, let's focus on Bahawalpur first. Bahawalpur is more than 100 kilometers west of the Punjab border. The fact that India chose to strike this far into Pakistani Punjab meant to send a strong signal. It's also the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters, which has been destroyed. Muridke, further up near Lahore, is another terror training center of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. Again, that has been destroyed. Several of the other areas have seen significant incursions of between 25 to 30 kilometers. So all along the line of control over here, incursions, by which I mean airstrikes of 25 to 30 kilometers across the line of control has taken place. And again, in this entire area, we have seen very intense artillery shelling, which has taken place shortly after the Indian strikes. There have been casualties on the Indian side. Some reports suggest upwards of 10 people, and our defense sources saying that India's counter-action has resulted in significant casualties on the Pakistani side as well. So that's where it's all taken place. This entire border and the line of control remains fairly tense. But let's play out some video now of the strikes going in, the Indian strikes going in. Let's move to some of the videos which we've been going. Let's move to the next video. And this is Bhimber. And that was a small bomblet dropped from a drone. And that's what it strikes. This is Sindhu Kotli. This particular target you can see on your screen over there. That is an explosion taking place over there. This is Kotli Gulpur. And this is a warhead, a drone coming in, a suicide drone coming in. You can see it, the animation on this side, and that's the actual drone about to hit its target. The cameras go off because it has hit its target right over there. In Sawai Nalla, this is fairly clear footage that you should see over here of a significant explosion which takes place. Now, the fact that India is putting out this footage is very, very important, because in the past we didn't really have footage which was present during the surgical strikes or Balakot. So there is a message which needs to be sent. This is not drone footage per se, but this is footage of some of the strikes, the hits which have taken place in Muridke. This is Sarjal, and again over here you can see the explosion which took place. These have by and large, even according to international OSINT experts, been largely accurate. You can see this drone going towards its target, and then the video goes off. That's when the target has been destroyed. So that's essentially what we are looking at. The strikes themselves have been fairly successful. I'm now joined by Ambassador Javed Ashraf. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. Let's have Ambassador Ashraf up on the screen. It's a difficult one, but let me ask you, in your personal opinion, do you believe that there is a possibility of further escalation?
Well, I think there would be a symbolic response from Pakistan, maybe a couple of hits. As you've just seen, they have escalated the firing across the LOC, which has resulted in civilian casualties. There may be a couple of symbolic attacks, but I don't think that I see this escalating into a full-scale, prolonged war between the two countries for a number of reasons. One is that they have to recognize their economic fragility and political instability. There will be a lot of international pressure also on Pakistan to avoid escalation in view of their culpability in the attack. India has already conveyed that there's absolutely no interest in escalating this further after achieving their objectives, and that we have been measured in our response, confining ourselves to hitting terrorist targets and avoiding any collateral civilian damage or destruction to the military installations. Pakistan will, of course, play out a very massive disinformation campaign. The fog of war, there is always this kind of a game that is played out. It needs to reassure its people that it has stood up to India, and that it was able to repulse or in fact inflict some damage on the other side. But the prospects of a long-term war escalation is limited. Second point here is that for Pakistan, they may wait their time, and we have to be very mindful of the fact that there may be another round of a major terrorist attack, this time on security forces, just to demonstrate that they haven't been deterred in this. We'll also have to watch out for cyber attacks, which is less visible but can be equally damaging, but not just from Pakistan, but from other countries that might be supporting Pakistan. We've experienced that in the past. So all told, we will be prepared for a full spectrum. And in case there is a retaliation from Pakistan, please remember, we went for terrorist targets. They'll have to go for civilian or military targets, in which case they're basically saying we're declaring a full-scale war, in which case I have no doubt that we will prevail, particularly the superiority in the naval and the air force will be able to hold Pakistan quite strongly, and they're also aware of that.
Ambassador Ashraf, the fact that we've released footage this time, which was absent in the past for whatever the reasons were, how significant is that in sending out a message, not just to people within our country, but also to Pakistan, which had disputed what we'd done in Balakot, saying, here, look, it's not one target, but several, and here's video evidence?
So it has, two very important messages. One, of course, is that, we've carried out simultaneous strikes on 9 of those terrorist camps. Remember, Bahawalpur and Muridke are the principal nurseries of decades-long terrorism against India, and we've been trying to have them shut down for a very long time. Now, in releasing these images, we are, as you've also mentioned before, taking note of the fact that the last time when we had the strike in Balakot, I mean, then we almost lost this battle of narrative and perception, and people began to doubt, and people sowed seeds of doubt about whether we had achieved anything at all. So one is a message to your own people and to your own country that what we've said, we have done, and this is your evidence of it. Second, it's the people of Pakistan that don't get taken in by the messaging, the rhetoric, or the obfuscation by the military establishment there. But even more to the international community that we set out to achieve a certain set of objectives, and here's the evidence of what we've done. And this also reflects, the very calm assertion of power.
Ambassador Ashraf, are you disappointed at the reaction of Turkey, which seems to be backing Pakistan at a time when so many countries around the world see it as nothing but being a state sponsor of terror?
Vishnu, I would have been very surprised if they've done anything otherwise. I mean, they are absolutely joined at the hips. They're the principal supporter of Pakistan. They're in every diplomatic, military, ideologically, they have also been supporting them. In fact, they're as close an ally as China, and China will perhaps be a little circumspect in getting involved in something of this nature. But for Turkey, this is nothing, and you've seen that in various forums. They speak on behalf of Pakistan. In fact, these attacks that we've seen yesterday, the strikes, is absolutely not surprising. But what would have been surprising is if Turkey had done it otherwise than stand in support for Pakistan.
All right.
I think
go ahead.
What I have seen, and I think I should point this out, I've been watching this, as you know, from 1999 onwards when we had Kargil, and then, the terror attack in the parliament, Kaluchak, then we had Mumbai, and then we've more recently Pathankot, Uri, and Pulwama. First is our outreach to the international community is much faster. The international understanding for the action that we have taken is much better. They will still be accompanied by concern of escalation into a prolonged conflict. But part of what we have seen is a change in the terms of our response. We have preempted any possible international effort to prevent some sort of military response. And that also helps in creating a sense of acceptance and understanding for the kind of response that we have actually meted out. And in this, the videos are of great help.
Ambassador Ashraf, great speaking to you. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Lieutenant General D.S. Huda, the former Northern Army commander. One of the finest military minds I've engaged with every now and again. And he was also the Northern Army commander when the surgical strikes in 2016 took place. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. General Huda, you didn't have, when the surgical strikes took place, a lot of the technology which is now present. You had to physically go across. Now, that may have been an option on this occasion as well, but India chose not to take it. Instead, we were able to fire missiles from long range, from within our shores, from within our territory, as it were. To what extent has that been a real force multiplier?
Vishnu, let me tell you, the manner in which this attack has been carried out is much more comprehensive, sends out a much, much stronger message. And the fact that we have the technical capacity and capability to carry out these very precise attacks from on our side of the international border, on our side of the line of control, really reflects in some ways how even from 2019, the technical capability of the Indian military and how it's grown. This has been a real. I take it as a real game changer for how we're going to deal with Pakistan in the future.
Okay. General Huda, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that last point, that there is a certain red line that Pakistan has crossed as a result of which we've hit them as hard as we have. Does this, in effect, mean that this is a precedent that we've set for ourselves, that if there is an attack like this in the future, then India will strike possibly as hard as we have this time?
So, Vishnu, not only merely as hard as we can, but also the selection of targets. The fact that the LET headquarters, the Jaish headquarters been hit, we are saying that, look, we are now going to go to the roots. Merely killing foot soldiers as we did in 2016 and 2019 by hitting, one odd terror camp or hitting the launch pads is really not providing us the deterrence that we need. And therefore, we are now going to go to this hub of what I could call the military jihad complex and take them out. So the messaging, Vishnu, is, apart from the fact that you hit 9 targets, the messaging, I think, has been very strong this time.
General Huda, the fact that we hit a target 100 kilometers west of the international border between Rajasthan and Punjab, Bahawalpur, again in Pakistani Punjab, what message does that specifically send?
So look, it sends a message, one, of the capability that the Indian military and the Indian Air Force has in their ability to strike targets with such precision deep into Pakistan territory. And the fact that, Punjab, which sort of the heartland of Pakistan, also in some ways the heartland of the Pakistan army, has been hit, is to me strategic messaging that, look, and standards have been set that this is how we are going to go now. We're not merely going for small time terror camps, but that we will hit at the heart of what this whole military jihadi complex is, and that is where we will take out an attempt to take out the heart and soul of terrorism that's coming from Pakistan.
All right. And General Huda, do you believe that given the number of targets we struck, this was more than just optics? This was actually inflicting serious pain on Pakistan?
It is, Vishnu, and I think that was what was needed. I think after 2016 and 2019, there is a realization that perhaps these limited military operations are not going to achieve our objectives. And what is our objective? Our objective is to deter Pakistan from using terrorism as an instrument of state policy. Now we have to see how Pakistan reacts. Are they going to come out in support of these terrorists and jihadis and say we are reacting to reacting to India clearly because India has struck terrorist targets? Or are they going to, at some stage, start thinking about, look, this is only going to bleed Pakistan. An unwinnable conflict with India doesn't help Pakistan as a nation. I think by what we have done is we have raised these very serious questions even within Pakistan, the government, the army, the society.
One final question to you, General Huda. There's very extensive fighting happening on both sides of the line of control or across the line of control, the international border in Jammu and Kashmir. The ceasefire, I mean, that's gone. It went a couple of days back. It doesn't exist anymore. In as much as we talk about these strikes, to what extent must we be aware of the situation in areas like Poonch, where there has been so much loss of life?
Vishnu, the ceasefire and the advantages were primarily to the local population. Unfortunately, the fact is that any ceasefire is hostage to India-Pakistan bilateral relations. Let's see how this crisis plays out. I do anticipate a response coming from Pakistan. My own sense is it will be limited. And if this crisis sort of blows over, then hopefully we can come to some kind of understanding again. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be early. Uh, on the ceasefire, which can, bring relief to the local population.
All right, General Huda, thank you very much, sir, for speaking to us, sharing your thoughts. We're joined by General Atta Hasnain, former General Officer commanding of 15 Corps and 21 Corps, and very much an expert on Kashmir. In your entire career, General, how many years did you serve in Kashmir?
I can't even count, but I think at the better part of about 8 tenures.
And each tenure would be what, about 2 to 3 years?
About almost 2 years, mostly 2 years or a little more.
So upwards of 16 years in
Yeah.
Kashmir itself, and fighting in many of those years with, against terrorists. So my question to you is this: the targets that we've hit, which we've seen the strikes on many of these areas, in terms of the nursery of terrorism that exists in Pakistan, how significant are the hits that we've carried out early today?
Well, Vishnu, first of all, thank you very much for calling me for your program, inviting me here. I recall Balakot and the surgical strikes, 2016, 2019. I mean, they seem to be baby operations compared to this particular operation. First of all, the decision to extend it beyond POK, we did it in 2019. Also, we actually hit Balakot, Jabba Top, which is in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. But this time we went into the center of gravity. Through my service, all the planning, etc., that we have been through, we have always considered Punjab, Pakistan, Punjab as the center of gravity. And that's the place which we have hit at last. I think the message should go down very clearly. India has moved on exponentially, transformationally in the field of military resources. What the Indian Air Force could achieve in this is not something we could have done 5 years ago. I believe most of this weaponry actually came in 2020 in the wake of what happened at Galwan and subsequent to that. So this is a complete transformational change which has happened. And what Prime Minister Modi has been saying, "Ghus ke ghar mein ghus ke marenge," that is exactly what is being played out now in the heart of Pakistan. Now, the one aspect, Vishnu, which I think is not being spoken about is the fact that we have hit 3 major areas: Bahawalpur, Muridke, Sialkot. All 3 have got huge terrorist facilities there, but they have also got very major conventional army camps in these areas. There's a whole corps headquarters in Muridke. There is an entire corps headquarters at Lahore, which is 40 kilometers away from Muridke itself. And then Sialkot, we know what it is, the strike forces of the Pakistan Army, which are existing there. I think the message is going clear that if the escalation ladder, if the next rung has to be climbed to or escalation has to take place at all, then all these things are under the scanner. And Pakistan should get this message very clearly that India may not rest content with only targeting the terrorist infrastructure, because after all, this is the Pakistan deep state, which I think the NIA has quite definitely identified as the Pakistan Army, the ISI, and the Lashkar-e-Taiba. So if the Pakistan Army hand is here, the ISI's hand is here, there's no reason why all these facilities should not also be hit.
General Hasnain, whenever a country decides to engage in military strikes, it's never a one-way street. Pakistan and India, some would suggest, are near peers. They've hit us fairly hard on the line of control. We've hit them back. There are reports of aerial engagements. I don't want to dwell on them because our government hasn't confirmed anything at this stage. My question to you is, do we need to understand as viewers and as citizens of this country that given how hard we have hit Pakistan, there has been a reaction from them, and that this is something we must accept? It's not going to be a one-way street for us. It never is in something as large as what we've done.
That makes a lot of military sense. Vishnu, what you have just spoken makes a lot of military sense. Because no self-respecting army, and not an army of 650,000, is going to sit content with this kind of a thing and sit back on his haunches. It will respond to something or the other. Today, Pakistan's capability to wage a conventional war is highly suspect. Maybe not more than 3 to 5 days or something like that. They don't have ammunition with them. The economy is in absolute shambles. But they have got one weapon in their quiver which no one can otherwise neutralize, and that is the doctrine of irrationality. And they have got an army chief at the moment who we saw from his attitude, his body language, his speech given out at that famous function with the Pakistani diaspora, that he is willing to take this to the next level only on an ideological plane. And he's probably seeking his second term in September this year and thinking that this is what is going to ultimately deliver that kind of extension to him. So he is possibly likely to retaliate, respond in some way or the other. It could be anything from just the anger which is being displayed at the line of control at the moment to a dud attack in some part of the Rajasthan desert or somewhere to say, I'm hearing a lot about this, to try and allege that we also have some terrorist camps, Baluch terrorist camps or something like that in our fold within India. Now, this kind of a fake news story, they are quite adept at that kind of a thing can be put out. So at the end of it, something will happen. We cannot describe what exactly will. It's already being played out on the line of control, and sub-conventionally, Pakistan's options are still open. They may wish to take this into the next 2, 3, 4, or 6 months and think about another strike somewhere in Kashmir. That is why I am advising that this is the season of infiltration in Jammu and Kashmir. And Northern Command had better be completely on its toes to prevent a surge of terrorist strength inside the valley.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. We need to be on alert for anything, including terrorist attacks. Thanks very much, General Hasnain. Always a pleasure speaking to you. We've got another great guest today. As you can see, we've just been able to get some of the finest minds and voices and thinkers, military, diplomats and others on Pakistan and the situation along our frontiers. Ajay Bisaria, former High Commissioner to Pakistan. Thanks, Ambassador Bisaria, very much for being with us.
Thank you, Vishnu. Great to join you here.
You would have studied the Pakistan Army Chief very closely. He was the DG of their ISI as well. He seemed to be entirely unpredictable. Is that the avatar that he seeks to create for himself, or is it genuine unpredictability which needs to be a cause of serious concern for us?
Yes, Vishnu. I think much of what we are seeing in starting from Pahalgam to now is all about Asim Munir. And this is an army chief who was beleaguered, who was in an internal crisis, and a strong driver for his behavior has been the internal crisis he faces and the attempt to use this crisis to bolster his position within the country. And that is why I would agree with General Hasnain that he is positioning himself to be an irrational actor. His risk appetite is much greater than that perhaps of his predecessor, and certainly more than that of the civilians. So you saw a bizarre situation unfold in Pakistan today, that when India offered in the Foreign Secretary's statement a de-escalation off-ramp, the civilians seemed to think it was a good idea by saying we've already done what we need to, and if India doesn't do anything else, we can get off. And the army comes and overrules them and says, no, we have to retaliate. So this is about a lot of this that we are seeing unfold is about an army chief trying to establish his internal position. And this is not new. We saw this, the early Musharraf attempt, Kargil, he got power through it. He had the parliament attack in 2001 when he felt his position was weak. His successor, Kayani, wanted to distance himself from Musharraf going soft. And so he did the Mumbai attack. So I think this is part of the same sort of syndrome in Pakistan, that a little skirmish with India, which he would hope to control, will re-establish his domestic position.
What is the off-ramp from here onwards for us?
Well, I think India did offer a clear off ramp. Incidentally, I think our action demonstrated that India acted with a great deal of political courage, with military precision, with smart strategic communication. What India established was credible deterrence, established its doctrine of zero tolerance of terrorism, but also signaled an off ramp that India was also accompanying this escalation with a strong de escalatory instinct. And it was for Pakistan to accept that and say that they had already done whatever damage they claimed to have done. But right now, I think Pakistan is compelled to go into the second or third rung, if you will, of escalation. Pakistan will escalate this situation, and Asim Munir will be willing or waiting for the Indian blow that will come. So the attempt, of course, will be to operate below India's threshold of response. But if it exceeds India's threshold of response, India is going to be climbing the next rung of escalation, and that for Pakistan will be dangerous because the chances of a conventional war breaking out are strong, where Pakistan is much weaker than India.
Ambassador Bisaria, are you satisfied with the international reaction which we've had not just today, but over the past few days in terms of supporting India in our fight against terrorism? Couldn't some of the language, including from our closest allies, including the United States, have been stronger?
I would read the international situation as a good deal of support for India. And if you read between the lines, what the Americans told us and the others told us was essentially do what you have to. We understand. We support your campaign against terrorism, but please contain it. Don't let it escalate beyond a point. And really speaking, you won't expect any other kind of advice. Nowhere is anyone condemning Indian action or questioning Indian action. It is supporting Indian action or against the terrorists in the first instance, but saying after that it is a dangerous situation and ought to be de escalated. So I would read this as broad support. I would argue that in the trajectory of this century, the support has gone stronger as countries have recognized India's legitimate right to react to terrorism, and also realize the kind of challenge India faces from Pakistan. So I would say that there is a broad recognition of India's right. There will also be now, as we climb the escalatory ladder, a strong push from the global community to try to ask both countries to de-escalate, which is understandable.
In fact, that was my next question. The Russian Foreign Ministry has said, and I quote, "We're deeply concerned about the aggravation of military confrontation between India and Pakistan. We urge the parties involved to show restraint." France has come out with a statement. France deeply concerned about the latest developments, calling for de-escalation and the protection of civilians. So, the two major countries over here, others would have said the same thing. Look, it's time to bring the tensions down. Who does that in a situation like this? How do you bring tensions down in a situation like this? Because essentially what you're looking to do is to right size Indian military action, saying that this is as much as we want it to be and no more, when we are dealing with an unpredictable person or unpredictable system on the other side of the boundary. And then if Pakistan retaliates, there's nothing that stops us from again retaliating, and then you're going up that escalation matrix.
Absolutely. I think this is the critical challenge, and this is the classical challenge. And if you study the example of the last time around between Pulwama and Balakot, and after Balakot, there was a Pakistani response, but we lucked out by having a off-ramp for Pakistan in the sense that the Indian pilot was down, and India threatened to escalate, and Pakistan decided to de-escalate by handing the pilot back. But that was something that where the global community stepped in and amplified India's message and made it quite clear to Pakistan it was not in their interests to escalate. So what we are facing now is a potential situation of Pakistan escalating to the next level. India, escalating further as a reaction to that, and therefore to break this chain, there will be certainly a lot of global pressure on, particularly on Pakistan, because that Pakistan's claims that its escalation is imminent, and thereafter, a temptation for Pakistan. Pakistan ought to be incentivized to accept the off-ramp that India has already offered in terms of saying that these are non-escalatory measures. These are targeted only at terrorists, not at the Pakistan military or civilians. Pakistan will have to is possibly going to invent a fiction of some terrorist targets in India or attack military installations, which would cross India's threshold. And therefore, it's a dangerous situation. And I think the world will take note, must take note, and try and restrain Pakistan from doing something really crazy.
Ambassador Bisaria, thanks very much for being with us. I'm now joined by Air Marshal Anil Khosla, the former Vice Chief of Air Staff. Thanks very much for being with us. In terms of some of the technology which has been used, scalp cruise missiles, we've used drones as well. This was technology not available to us even a couple of years ago. During Balakot, we had to cross the line of control in order to make the hits. On this occasion, we likely didn't need to do that. How has this new technology been key in us hitting our targets? Because from the video that we've seen, and it's been independently confirmed, all of the hits went through. All of the strikes went through.
Yeah, very rightly brought out. Actually, from Balakot time to now, in the last 6 years, Indian Air Force capability in terms of precision and strike and in terms of platforms, weapons, has really grown manifold. And the result you're seeing now. So if you compare Balakot and this action which has taken place today, there is a bit of similarities, but the similarities are only that, the time of attack is middle of the night, and terrorist camps have been attacked. That's where the similarity ends. And now if you see in Balakot, one target was attacked here, 9 targets were attacked simultaneously, and some as deep as 100 kilometers plus. So that sort of, and with exact precision, with no collateral damage, the whole planning has been done, the whole execution has been done, keeping in mind that only the target, that is a terrorist camp, are destroyed and not there is no collateral damage to civilians. Although these some of these camps are surrounded by civilian areas, and all this has been done without even crossing the LOC or IB. So that is how the technology has come up in terms of Rafale aircraft, in terms of Scalp and Hammer, the weapons which you have got with standoff and precision, loitering munition. So a whole gambit of it has been employed and employed very, very effectively.
Air Marshal Khosla, there have also been some reports of the Indian Air Force having taken hits. I don't want to get into that or dwell too much because the government hasn't really come out with details. But my question to you is, in as large an operation like this, particularly when you've got the Pakistan Air Force, which is in many senses a near peer, some sort of reaction from them would be expected, and losses on either side is something that is factored in when you go in for military operations, right?
Yeah, obviously, when you go in for operations, when punches are being exchanged across, the losses will be there. That is part of the game. But the idea is to restrict the losses to within acceptable limits. But having said that, even I heard these reports, and although official no confirmation, nothing has come, and I'm not privy to actually what has happened or what's gone on. But what I know is 2 or 3 things. One is that always, Pakistan is very active in misinformation and disinformation. and they quite a few times, they may issue statement and backtrack. In Balakot also, in one day they made 3 statements and backtracked, and now also, if you see, they made some statements and then backtrack like POWs and then said no POWs. So things like that. Second is, they're talking about 5 aircraft being destroyed. I mean, so very top, especially considering, Vishnu, that none of the aircraft has gone across. So what is you're not put your aircraft in the harm's way as well by going into enemy territory. And of course, they have BBR missiles, but to my mind, it doesn't. Third thing is, whatever visuals I've seen, which are being reported from the ground as aircraft, they all look like drop tanks to me. And dropping drop tanks are a very common thing in a air combat. When you're going into a combat, you drop the drop tank so that the aircraft is agile. It's a very common thing. So keeping these things in mind, I feel that it is a case of mis or disinformation. But the truth will come out in a few days as the fog of war lifts.
Air Marshal Khosla, the Air Force would be particularly alert tonight and perhaps the next few nights, because the possibility of escalation is intense. And chances are, if there is an escalation, it could be strikes by Pakistan, whether it's missiles or airstrikes or both. So could you, as a former Vice Chief, tell us, the sense of tension, the sense of alert, the deployment of assets, squadrons ready, aircraft armed? What would be the broad situation scenario in our air bases?
Yeah, anytime when things heat up, first thing is the air defense alert, which takes place, as soon as the trigger event or whatever event happens. And that would have happened 15 days back, because knowing that the things are heating up. So AD alert is on. And once you have decided and you planned this, that once you hit, after that it's a full alert. The whole, all the 3 services are on alert, the AD is alert, the aircraft are ready, the forces are ready. I'm not only the Air Force, Army, Navy, everyone is ready. And not only that, even all the other agencies are told, like you take the case of all the airports have been closed in the northern area. So civil aviation is affected. It's a whole of country effort. So once the event happens, thereafter the message goes quickly and the system is in place to inform everyone, okay, now we have to be in alert mode. And this time, Vishnu, notice, there is a very subtle difference between Balakot and this time. Balakot, we achieved tactical surprise by, keeping everything secret and keeping everything normal, means every activity. But in this case, if you see, we have gone in with the, without any secrecy, to the extent Prime Minister, it's being announced that civil defense will be activated on 7th. That's a sort of an indication, we're coming in. So that sort of confidence that has come on because of the earlier question which you asked, the technology which has come in. There is no need to cross the border, and from this side itself, we can engage the targets and engage in a very precise way. So that is the basic difference between the earlier and now. Of course, the whole country is ready in case the escalation is there. On Pakistan side, so be it, because our patience has run out and they have crossed a big red line by attacking civilians, unarmed civilians, in front of their wives and children, that too men, on religious grounds.
Yeah, absolutely horrific. Air Marshal, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. It's been a huge day for the Indian Air Force. We'll take a short break at this stage, come back with more intelligent conversation with real experts who know the India-Pakistan situation inside out. Do stay tuned, there's more coming up. All right, a huge day for India, Operation Sindoor. Massive strikes into Pakistan. We've hit multiple targets in Kotli, Muzaffarabad, Bahawalpur. These are just a few of them. 9 broad areas which were struck. Each area had individual targets. So in total, approximately 20-odd targets. We're joined by Strategic Affairs expert Brahma Chelani at this stage. Dr. Chelani, what do we do from here onwards? Do you believe that there is a possibility of escalation? And if there is, that India needs to strike back, or should India look for an off-ramp having achieved what we have?
The Indian strikes on Pakistan, Vishnu, were dramatic. This was the largest aerial assault on Pakistan in more than half a century. Pakistan hasn't faced this kind of aerial attack since the 1971 war. But let's be clear that Pakistan will hit back and hit back in an equally dramatic fashion, just the way it hit back after the Balakot airstrike. Our decisive moment is coming. When Pakistan responds, will India hit back or will it balk? When Pakistan hit an Indian military base after Balakot and dropped bombs elsewhere in J&K, we did not use that opportunity to hit back. This time, the conditions are different. There's a geopolitical environment that's favorable to India. No country has criticized India's military strikes. No country has criticized even India's action in pausing the Indus Waters Treaty. And more importantly, we have a national consensus in India, which we didn't have in 2019. And let's be clear on one other thing, that hitting 9 terror camps is not going to end Pakistan's cross-border terrorism. In fact, in anticipation of India's strikes, Pakistan had emptied almost all the terror camps. And of course, the terrorists are expendable to the military generals of Pakistan. They're cannon fodder. We have not inflicted costs on the terror masters, the puppeteers. We have decided to hit the puppets. And therefore, when Pakistan retaliates, let's be clear, they will not be hitting terror camps in India because there are no terror camps in India. They'll be hitting military facilities in India. At that point, if India balks, then whatever we have gained from this morning's strikes will be lost. So that will be the decisive moment for the government of India. Will it impose costs on Pakistan, on the terror masters? If Pakistan strikes Indian military facilities, it provides an opportunity for India to pay back in the same coin by hitting the Pakistan military establishment.
I'm joined also by Ambassador Leela Punappa, former Deputy National Security Advisor to the government. Thank you, ma'am, very much for being with us. Do you see an off-ramp to this, or do you believe that this could escalate and the tension could continue indefinitely? Ambassador, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
I said, regardless of which way one assesses the possibilities, it is speculative. So I think there's a full range of options. But I think what I would like to point out is that the way India has responded to the Pahalgam massacre did not start with a military operation or the anti-terror operation that was undertaken last night. It started with measures that would affect common people. The abeyance of the Indus Waters Treaty, the kind of holding back of the Chenab waters that we demonstrated, and which was seen in a whole range of photographs, with the water level down to a very low level. Either that or major flushing, which would mean a surplus of water. And then the scenes of the Pakistanis returning to Pakistan, some of whom were leaving families behind and claimed they had nobody to go to back in Pakistan. I think ultimately we need to look for a two-stage kind of thing. One is the kind of attack on the terrorist bases and headquarters that took place last night or early this morning. And the other is really getting the Pakistani people out onto the streets to say this kind of support to terrorism is enough. No more and opposing fundamentalism. I think when you have a conjoining of those two elements or those two forces, perhaps you might see a different kind of response from Pakistan. Right now, I think given the kind of mentality or the mindset that the Pakistan Army Chief demonstrated in that strange speech he made to the overseas Pakistanis gathered in Islamabad, the mentality of the Pakistan Army will prevail. and they would then really want to do a tit-for-tat kind of thing. As Brahma has just pointed out, there are no terror camps over here, so who would they hit? Now, one interpretation could be that the very intensive firing on the LOC right now which really started before last night's strikes, is in a way Pakistan's way of saying, well, yes, we have taken responsive action. But I think there will be a temptation, there will be an urge, certainly in the thinking of the Pakistan army, if not of the government, which really doesn't take these security decisions, to go for some kind of escalation.
Yeah. All right, well, I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us. These are tense times, and I think the possibility of an escalation, at least for the moment, is something that we need to look at very, very closely. We leave you with this report from my colleague Shiv Arur, who spent more than a week now in Kashmir and the last several days looking to be close to the line of control or at the line of control. He was in some parts of Poonch which have been hit very heavily by Pakistani shelling. Several people have lost their lives in this area. It is a cause of huge concern. This was Shiv Arur from a little while earlier today.
We're at the line of control in Salamabad, which it's one of the last outposts before the line of control. There are two houses here that were struck last night in Pakistan Army shelling here in the Uri sector. These two houses have been completely totaled, completely destroyed. There's still a fire burning, if you can see over there, smoke smoldering across this entire pair of houses. Miraculously, no deaths, but 4 people have been severely injured. 2 of them children. One of them has apparently lost a limb as well. They've been evacuated to the Baramulla hospital, which is about 40 kilometers to our rear from here. We're about 10 kilometers from the line of control. Complete damage over here, Vishnu. If you can see that these two houses, I'm surprised that anything is left everywhere else, because it looks like a stray shell may have come and landed here. It appears to suggest that the Pakistan Army, which has been aiming and firing directly, targeting civilian areas, has caused damage deeper inside, and one shell or a couple of shells has come and actually landed here. This has all the telltale signs of artillery damage. You can see shrapnel completely ripping through these metal sheets. These are very clear signs of artillery shrapnel that has ripped open these roof sheets.
एक 13 साल की बच्ची, एक 4 साल का बच्चा, तो 2 घर के मालिक.
हाँ. और क्या ये पाकिस्तान के शेल?
ये पाकिस्तान का है, रात के 2 बजे का मसला है. तो उससे ये घायल हो गए. तो यहाँ मकानों की बात ही नहीं. मकान
कितने बजे गिरे थे ये शेल?
2 बजे. 2 बजे सोए होते हैं.
आप कहाँ थे उस टाइम? हमने सुना ये?
हाँ, हमने ये भरोसी है यहाँ. हम तो रात को बाहर आ रहे. 2 बजे के बाद हमारे बच्चे भी बाहर आ गए. उधर इधर लगे भागने. क्या करते भाग?
सर इधर आइए एक सेकंड. सर, आप यहाँ रहते हैं? नजदीक में रहते?
इस्लामाबाद का.
कहाँ थे आप जब ये हुआ था?
हम तो घर में रात को 2 बजे.
आपने सुना ये जब
वो बहुत आवाज सुना?
क्या आवाज था?
वो आवाज था ये शेल की थी जी.
अच्छा.
पूरे शेल लग रहे थे. एक तो नहीं था ना, बहुत आ रहे थे.
कितने शेल?
इसको मेरे ख्याल 1-2 लगे मेरे ख्याल में. इसमें 2 लगे.
जख्मी लोग बारामुल्ला हॉस्पिटल में हैं.
पहले उड़ी लिए, उसके बाद उन्होंने उड़ी वालों ने बारामुल्ला भेज दिए. बारामुल्ला हॉस्पिटल में भी.
बुरा है जख्म?
वो जख्म तो सर में भी लगी. हमने उसको देखा नहीं है. सुबह हम खुद डरे थे. हम जंगलों में भाग रहे थे. इधर तो हमारे पास कोई है ही नहीं, सेफ्टी है ही नहीं. क्यों?
तो इस गांव में डर नहीं है अभी?
और डर तो बहुत है. माल का
आप यहीं पे
क्या करेंगे? अपना कहाँ छोड़कर जाएंगे? किसके घर जाएंगे? गरीब शख्स कहाँ जाएगा? हमारे पास कोई बैंकर नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, तो कहाँ जाएंगे? अगर बैंकर होता फिर अपनी कुछ सेफ्टी होती. बैंकर ही नहीं है.